My parents gave my brother a luxurious penthouse in downtown Sydney, while I was left with an abandoned riverside warehouse. You're used to simple living anyway, they sneered. But when I turned it into a vibrant creative hub, they wanted a piece of it. I should have known that dinner was a trap. Fancy restaurant, fake smiles, and cold stares. They never invited me just to catch up. Yet I went anyway. No matter how many times they cast me aside, a foolish hope lingered in me. I'm a mechanic, nothing glamorous, but it's honest work that makes me proud. My brother, Marcus, has always been the golden child. He's never tightened a single bolt in his life. Yet every mess somehow became my fault. When I entered, Marcus was already there, legs crossed, sipping wine like he owned all of Sydney. My parents played their usual act, Dad pretending to read the paper, Mom busy on her phone, avoiding eye contact. "Oh, Leo, still around?" Marcus smirked. "No greasy cars to fix today?" I sat down, indifferent on the outside but with a tight knot in my chest. "Mom said it's important," I said. Dad folded the newspaper. "Indeed, we've decided on the inheritance." Marcus raised his eyebrows, barely hiding his smugness. "Marcus, you'll have the Darling Harbor penthouse," Mom announced as if it was a given. I waited. Surely they wouldn't leave me empty-handed. "And you, Leo, you'll have the Riverside warehouse," Dad said, indifferent, as if reading the weather report. I swallowed hard. "What?" "It's land. You'll figure something out," Mom waved dismissively. Marcus laughed. "At least you'll have shelter when Sydney floods." Dad chuckled. "That lot's been empty for years, but hey, maybe you'll open a lemonade stand." Mom sighed. "Leo, you always said you wanted to build something on your own. Well, here's your chance." I stared at them. This wasn't subtle contempt anymore. This was blatant, shameless disdain. Memories from when I was 16 flooded back. My clothes reeked of grease, my hands clutching my first paycheck. I had hoped for praise, but was met with cold, dismissive stares. Marcus lounged on the sofa, whining for a supercar for his birthday. Dad sneered, "Planning to stink of oil your whole life?" Mom sighed. "At least he's useful. Maybe he'll fix Marcus's car for free one day." A week later, Marcus had a brand new Porsche. And now, more than a decade later, nothing had changed. I took a deep breath, pushing my chair back, every movement heavy with swallowed resentment. "Really?" Dad shrugged as if it was the most trivial matter. Marcus smirked. "At least you've got a free campsite in the city." Mom feigned concern. "This is your chance to prove yourself, Leo." I clenched my teeth, staring at them as if they were strangers. "Thank you for the family's generosity," I said, my voice icy. Mom frowned. "Is that all? No hugs of gratitude?" I stood up, calm and composed. "I'll turn it into something you can't even fathom." I stared straight at Marcus. "And when I do, don't come knocking for favors." Marcus laughed, but the confidence behind it was starting to crack. Leaving their mansion, I felt as if I was shedding an old chain. Fine. They thought they could humiliate me. I would turn that useless parking lot into something they could never even imagine. And when I did, they'd regret every word they said. I stood before that lot, cracked concrete beneath my feet, weeds definitely sprouting through. My parents hadn't just shortchanged me. They laughed while doing it. They thought this was a sentence of failure. But to me, it was a chance for retribution. The next morning, I filed for permits to start a food truck court here. If this was just a slab of concrete, I'd turn it into a money-making slab of concrete. Within a week, I had contracts signed with the top food truck owners in the area. Tacos, burgers, coffee, even overpriced vegan bowls for the hipsters. I called my old garage boss, the only person who ever believed in hard work. Borrowing a small loan from him, I began rebuilding from scratch. I used the money to install lights, seating, music, and banners, turning the place into a real venue. 3 weeks later, that useless parking lot had become a bustling food court with live music and lines of people wrapping around the block. And that's when the real fun began. A month later, that scorned patch of land had turned into a bustling hotspot. Food trucks lined up side by side, music pulsed, lights shimmered through the night. As the place went viral, it was no surprise to see Mom show up, her eyes filled with confusion. "So this is what you've built?" She grimaced at the joyful crowd. "Yes, you gave me garbage, I turned it into gold." She scowled. "This is temporary, not real business. It's just a phase, right?" Temporary, yet it's making more money than Marcus's entire influencer career. Her face twitched. Right on cue, Marcus appeared at the corner of the street. His face flushed at the lively scene. "What the hell is this? You turned this into a flea market?" I grinned widely. "No, Marcus, this is called success." He scoffed. "Fake money. It won't last." I pointed. "So all those hundreds of people are spending fake money, huh?" A few nearby customers even applauded. Marcus's face turned bright red. "Mom, say something," she exclaimed. His mother cleared her throat. "Leo, we're just concerned. This business doesn't seem sustainable." I raised an eyebrow. "Sustainable? Like the fully furnished beachfront villa you gave Marcus for free?" Mom tried to salvage. "We're family, Leo. We should partner up." I laughed loudly, feeling my newfound power. "When you gave me nothing, no one mentioned family." Marcus stormed forward, shrieking, "This isn't fair. You don't deserve this." I stared into his eyes. "You've had your share. Live with it." As they stood there, speechless, I turned my back on the past. Marcus folded his arms, her once cold blue eyes now tinged with unease. He tried to maintain his superior facade, but every gesture, every breath betrayed the rising anxiety within. "I'm just saying," he swallowed, his voice lowering. Selling it would be betraying the family. I tilted my head, a faint, mocking smile playing on my lips. "When you tossed it to me like a piece of junk, wasn't that betrayal enough?" My mother stood beside him, fiddling with her gold ring, searching for words to justify herself. She had never been good at facing situations where the advantage wasn't hers. Finally, she looked up, her eyes gleaming with calculation. "Well then," she said slowly, "if this business is truly thriving, perhaps we should discuss a long-term partnership." I laughed, my voice echoing through the street, drawing curious glances from nearby patrons. "How ridiculous! You gave me absolutely nothing, looked down on me, and now you want to share?" Marcus clenched his arms tighter, trying to appear strong. "That money belongs to the family now," he said through gritted teeth, but the confidence had faded like smudged lipstick. I stepped closer, the distance between us reduced to a single breath. "You've had your share, Marcus," I said, each word cutting like a blade. "Learn to live with it." Without waiting for a response, I turned my back and walked toward my team, leaving them standing there, frozen like lifeless statues. They once thought they could crush me with contempt. But I was just getting started. A week later, amidst the chaos of expansion plans, my old phone buzzed. The screen displayed a familiar name, Mother. I stared at it, oddly calm. The call came and went, as if it had never existed. But then it rang again, and again. I chuckled, a light, almost relieved laugh, free of bitterness. Now, they were the ones needing me. My food truck park had become the city's top destination. We hosted live music every night, vibrant night markets. and VIP lounges for influencers and artists. Every month, I earned more than an entire year at the old repair shop, and as if fate enjoyed its irony, the very family who once mocked me now couldn't stop calling. A few days later, while inspecting a new shipment, a familiar voice halted me. "Leo." I turned, my eyes meeting the figures of Marcus and my mother, but this time their usual arrogance was gone. Only exhaustion and worry etched deep into their faces. Marcus, clad in a luxury brand coat, but this time his eyes lacked their usual arrogance. He wove through the crowd, yet no one moved aside for him anymore. He had to squeeze past laughing patrons, his expression growing increasingly irritated. When he finally reached me, Marcus took a deep breath, trying to compose himself. "Leo, we need to talk." I didn't invite him to sit. "I'm busy. You've got 2 minutes." He gritted his teeth but swallowed his pride. "I want to apologize." I raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. "That's new. Are you sure you're not lost?" "What do you want, Marcus?" He inhaled sharply. "I got scammed. A business partner tricked me into signing papers. Now I'm drowning in debt. If I don't get money, I'll lose everything." I let out a dry chuckle, my eyes barely masking the contempt. "Let me guess. Too many luxury vacations, designer clothes, and overpriced lattes for the perfect influencer lifestyle?" Marcus stiffened. "It's complicated," he mumbled, his voice smaller than usual. "I just need your help." I crossed my arms, leaning back against the food truck, savoring this moment like the finest meal I'd ever tasted. "Help how?" He hesitated, his hands clasped tightly as if trying to hold back the pride bleeding from her wounded ego. "I need $200,000 to pay off debts before I can list the house." I whistled, pushing off the truck. "That's heavy." Without waiting for his to elaborate, I turned back to my inventory list, waving to a driver as if Marcus wasn't even there. "Anyway, good luck with that." He grabbed my arm, nails digging in as if trying to leave a mark. "You're serious? You've got the money." I brushed his hand off, my gaze cold as steel. "Oh, so now my business is real enough for you to come begging?" Marcus's face flushed, but this time it wasn't anger, it was shame. "Leo, we're family." I laughed, the sound echoing through the lot like a victory bell. "Funny, last time we spoke you called me a joke. Where's that attitude now?" He pressed his lips together, starting to speak but swallowing his words. "I'll pay you back, little by little, if I have to," he finally said, his voice holding back the shards of her crumbling pride. "Please." I stared at him for a long moment, my gaze no longer angry, but a mixture of pity and detachment. Then I leaned in, speaking softly, each word hitting like a hammer. "No." His eyes widened, disbelief washing over him. "No?" I smiled. The smile of a man once trampled, now standing tall atop the ruins they left him. "That's right, just like you, Mom. And Dad said no when I needed you. So no, Marcus, I'm not saving you." He stepped back, as if each of my words had struck his chest. A flicker of shock, then rage bubbled to the surface. "You're serious? You're going to let me fail?" I shrugged, slow and unconcerned. "That's not my problem anymore." And I turned away, leaving his small and adrift in the world I had built. But the story wasn't over that easily. A week later, as I drove my old pickup into the lot, 2 all too familiar figures stood waiting, like statues carved from stone. My mother in a wrinkled dress, lips pursed to a pale line. My father bowed, shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of their decaying fortune. "Leo," my mother rasped, "we need to talk." I leaned against the truck door, exhaling slowly. "Let me guess," I sneered. Marcus came crying to you, so now you're here to set me straight? Mom clenched her jaw, her eyes flashing that familiar rage. This is serious, Leo. My father, once towering and proud, now seemed like a weary shadow of himself. Our family is facing financial trouble, he said, each word sinking like lead. How poetic. I tilted my head, voice dripping with sweet sarcasm. The same family that gifted my brother a penthouse and tossed me a derelict warehouse is now broke. My mother's face flushed, nostrils flaring. Don't be childish, Leo, she hissed through clenched teeth. I chuckled softly, arms crossing, eyes locked on theirs. Childish, like how you mocked me while I struggled. Dad groaned softly, his voice rasped with fatigue. We need your help, alone, Leon. I feigned contemplation, stroking my chin. How much? Mom swallowed, each gulp choking down pride. $500,000. I threw my head back, laughing loud enough to echo through the lot like a slap across their faces. You honestly think I'd hand $500,000 to the same people who treated me like dirt? Dad tried to stay composed, but his eyes betrayed his desperation. You can afford it, Leon. You've made it. My mother snapped, We are still your family, don't forget that. I let that statement hang in the air, letting the silence burn them. Let me remind you what family means. I closed in, my gaze razor sharp. Family doesn't kick you when you're trying to stand. Another step. Family doesn't turn your struggle into dinner party jokes. One more step. And family doesn't show up only when they need your money. My mother's face went pale, her hands clenching her designer clutch as if to crush it. Leo, please, Dad whispered, his voice as shattered as their pride. I shook my head, every motion a verdict. You made your choice, now I'm making mine. I stepped back, ending the conversation with a wordless refusal. My mother screamed, furious. Ungrateful son! I raised my hand, silencing her rage. No, this ends here. As I turned, Dad's voice echoed one last time. Leo, if you walk away from this. I stopped, turning back with a piercing gaze. Walk away? Like you did with me? Silence. I nodded, soft yet firm. I thought so. Then I walked away, leaving them there. Small, powerless, amidst the ruins of their own arrogance. My revenge wasn't just about saying no. It was about making them witness my success every single day. I thought I was done with them. Clear cut. No money, no help, no second chances. But people like my parents and Marcus don't take rejection easily. As expected, just a few days later, they struck back. It started with bad online reviews, each word reeking of fakery. Overhyped place, outrageous prices, rude owner. 1 star. Another 1 star. Unprofessional staff. The place reeks of garbage. And another, the owner is an ungrateful man. Do not support people like this. I smirked. Classic mom. She's always been the perfect victim. Push you into the mud, then cry as if she's the one hurt. I could almost hear her muttering in her fancy kitchen, typing venomous words between sips of red wine. But they didn't stop there. They wanted more. A city inspector showed up, knocking with an awkward expression. There's been an anonymous complaint about your permits, he said. I smirked. Let me guess. A middle-aged lady and her entitled son? He scratched his head, embarrassed. I can't say who filed it, but it seems you already know. Then came a flood of complaints. Violations of space, noise issues, food safety concerns. They were trying to bury me under paperwork and fines, to strangle my business with dirty tricks. But they forgot one thing. I'm the most stubborn bastard they've ever met. Instead of panicking, I fought back. I hired lawyers, combed through every permit and clause, until inspectors had to admit they found nothing. I doubled down on marketing. If they wanted to smear my name, I would flood the airwaves with positivity. I hosted special events, giveaways, live performances. I reached out to local influencers, invited them to exclusive tasting nights. I expanded. If they thought I was a problem before, they had no idea what was coming. I rented the lot next door to expand my business. I turned a small courtyard into an outdoor beer garden, partnered with local artists to host weekend craft markets. Their little sabotage scheme became free publicity for me, and business was booming. But then, Marcus made the biggest mistake of his life. Saturday night, the busiest night of the week. Music, laughter, the sizzling aroma of fresh tacos filled the air. The area was lit up, packed with people. Every corner buzzed with energy. At that moment, a shrill scream tore through the lively atmosphere near the entrance. "This place is a joke." I turned my head. It was Marcus, but not the proud Emily I once knew. His hair was a tangled mess, his once pristine Gucci dress now wrinkled and crumpled, much like his pride. He staggered forward, reeking of alcohol, eyes bloodshot from sobbing in the car, before mustering the courage to step in. My mother trailed close behind, clutching Marcus's arm in a futile attempt to restrain him. "Marcus, stop this. It's not worth it." But Marcus yanked his arm away, a rebellious child throwing a tantrum. "I can't believe you think he's better than us," he screamed, his voice cracking. Several patrons paused their meals, phones already raised to record the spectacle. I smiled faintly. "Perfect." I strode towards him, voice calm, a still pond before the storm. "Marcus, step outside." But he stumbled closer, her breath heavy with bitterness. "You think you're something now? Think you're better than us?" I smirked, unblinking. "No need to think, I already am." His face twisted with rage, once carefully sculpted beauty, now grotesque with fury. And then, without warning, a beer glass from a nearby table crashed into my chest. I took half a step back, feeling the cold liquid seep into my shirt. A suffocating silence enveloped the entire space. My security team swiftly pinned Marcus to the ground as the crowd watched, stunned. My mother screamed, her voice cracking, "Let him go. That's your brother." I slowly brushed off my shirt, each motion a slap to their dignity. I turned to my head of security. "Call the police." Marcus lifted his head, his eyes glistening with sheer terror. "No, Leo, please don't." I leaned in, voice low enough for only him to hear. "Actions have consequences." Less than 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights bathed the lot. My mother shrieked, desperate. "You're ruining the family's reputation." I scoffed, merciless. "You did that yourself a long time ago." Marcus was handcuffed, tears streaming down into a pitiful mess. A mirror image of my younger self, humiliated before the world. But this time, I stood tall, no longer the one bowing his head. My mother turned to me, pleading, voice frail. "He's your brother. Do something." I crossed my arms, each word laced with frost. "Oh, you mean like what you did for me? Laughing in my face and handing me a pile of garbage?" She couldn't answer, her lips trembling with confusion. I turned away, my footsteps echoing on the cracked pavement. "Oh, by the way," I called back, "I hope that beach mansion was worth it." I returned to my work, amidst the lively music and resounding laughter. They once longed to see me fail. Now, they sat in the front row, watching me thrive. After Marcus's public scandal, I thought it would be their wake-up call. But no. A week later, the usual pair reappeared. This time, there were no smug smiles or mocking glances. They came looking like people who were sinking. As I discussed the upcoming weekend event with my manager, My eyes accidentally caught two familiar figures lingering by the gate. They looked out of place amidst the bustling crowd, small and powerless. For years, I was the one bowing my head to them. But now, the tables have completely turned. I deliberately made them wait 15 minutes, long enough for them to feel their diminished standing. Then I approached, arms crossed, tone indifferent, as if greeting insignificant clients. Back again? Let me guess. Marcus is too embarrassed to come, so you two are here to apologize on her behalf? My father cleared his throat, voice gravelly. Leo, we need to talk. I raised an eyebrow, smirking. Oh, like last time, when you talked and handed me a pile of junk while gifting Marcus a mansion, right? My mother pressed her lips together, fingers clenching her designer bag as if holding on to the last remnants of power. This isn't about the past. I laughed, my voice echoing through the open space. But it is, because if you hadn't treated me like garbage back then, you wouldn't be standing here like this today. They exchanged glances, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in their eyes. My mother swallowed hard. We're in trouble, Leo. I said nothing. I had known this all along. Marcus had drained his finances dry, his beachside villa on the brink of foreclosure after multiple mortgages. My father's business was nosediving. Former associates who once flattered him now nowhere to be found. Now, they had nowhere else to cling to but me. My father sighed, his shoulders sagging. Leo, we're still family after all. I laughed, sharp and cold as a blade. Funny, isn't it? When you trampled me, family was just an excuse to belittle. And now, when you've lost everything, suddenly it matters again? My mother froze, her fingers clenching tightly as if holding on to the last fragments of pride. You're more than capable of helping. Why are you being so petty? Her voice quivered, though she struggled to sound proud. I stepped closer, the cold echo of my footsteps on concrete filling the air, leaning in to whisper, Petty? Number petty would be if I bought your house just to kick you both out. Their eyes widened. Panic slowly etched itself across their faces. Dad paled, his lips trembling. You wouldn't do that, Leo. I smirked, my gaze as sharp as a blade. Really? You think I wouldn't? The truth was, I had been waiting for this moment my entire life. Every insult, every petty sabotage had fueled my ambition. While they basked in delusions of power, I quietly built my own empire. And now, their childhood home, once deemed untouchable, had been listed by the bank. I had bought it simple and clean, like the final move in a long game of chess. No way, Mother stammered, her face as pale as paper. I pulled out my phone, scrolled swiftly, and held it up. Leo Carter, new property purchase confirmation. Dad staggered, gripping a chair for balance. You bought our home. I tilted my head, feigning surprise. You mean the house you said was never mine? Mother clutched my arm, her voice pleading. Leo, we'll do anything. Please don't take this home from us. I slowly pried her fingers off, each motion deliberate. Now you understand what it feels like to have everything taken away. She began to cry, but her tears couldn't reach me anymore. I exhaled, narrowing my eyes, ready to deliver the final blow. You know, I said slowly, I'll let you keep the house. A flicker of hope appeared in their eyes, fragile and desperate. Really? Mother gasped, clinging to the last thread of hope. Of course, I smiled, but on one condition. They nodded frantically, too desperate to even ask. I produced a prepared contract, placing a pen on the table. You can stay, but I'm the owner, and you'll pay monthly rent, market rate, on time. Mother's eyes widened, mouth agape. Leo, you're joking. I leaned in, my voice a low rumble. I've never been more serious. Dad swallowed hard. How much? I named the price. High. Just enough for them to think of me every time they opened their wallets. Mother's face drained of color as she screamed, "You're making us pay to live in our own home?" I smiled, eyes blazing. "No. I'm making you pay to live in my house." Silence enveloped the room, broken only by the ticking of the clock. Finally, Dad exhaled a defeated sigh. "We have no other choice, do we?" I shrugged. "Of course you do. Plenty of motels are happy to have you." Mother stared at me, furious yet powerless. With trembling hands, Dad signed the contract. Mother snatched the pen, pressing so hard it seemed the paper might tear. I folded the contract, slipping it into my pocket. "Pleasure doing business with you both." Turning away, I left them standing there, small and defeated. Dad collapsed onto a chair, head in his hands. Mother wiped her tears, her face contorted with humiliation. They had once mocked me, deemed me a failure. But now the tables have turned. I owned their house. I held their fate in my hands. And as I returned to my office, a smile remained on my lips. They thought I'd never amount to anything. But now I had everything, and they had nothing left.